The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
All right, so Super Series Stage 1 results. We're just going to kind of jump right in here. One of my regular partners for recapping stuff, Eric Rusain here again. So, Eric, we had Stage 1 wrap up, and we contested, well, Armlifting USA contested, I say we, but everybody that participated. We contested the 2-inch country crush deadlift, 3-inch Saxon bar, and freestyle hub, where you can either implement like a doorknob grip or the traditional claw grip. Either form is used. Obviously, Armlifting USA, all lifts pulled to lockout, and this was just Stage 1. There'll be a following Stage 2 that gets tallied up later. Most of those venues, I believe, are in August, but we're just handling Stage 1 today. So, I guess just kind of like to jump right in and start with, I have some stats up here, so I might be looking off and kind of spaced out here, but start with the women's 60 kg class. And we can kind of start there and look at some of these numbers and kind of see how close some of these different races were per class. But yeah, did you have anything you wanted to add about Stage 1 there before we get into the names and placings?
Just that I think it's the biggest Super Series to date. There's 270 something competitors, or 280 around that. So it's great to see all these contests grow every year, and I know a lot of us have been waiting with anticipation for these results to be posted. So I'm looking forward to doing a quick run through with you.
Okay. And with that, we'll, like I said, we'll jump in with 60 kg. And for 60 kilos, Paige Elliott was the first place winner. And like I said, this is info I didn't know, because like I said, with this many lifters, we're not always going to know everybody personally. Even though we may have competed with a lot of people or we're aware of them, there's still, things we're not going to realize. And one thing I'm looking at right now is age 17. So she won the class as a 17-year-old.
Plus one of the lightest competitors. She's competed at a couple of Wilds events in the past couple of months. And she, I don't know if she climbs. I know she does a lot of pull-ups or that types of training, but it's impressive figures for someone that age and size. So good for her. 295 points, pretty good.
Yeah, and as always for this, with 3 lifts, the most points you can get per lift would be 100. For 3 lifts, the highest score you could get to completely sweep your class would be 300 points total. So 295 is about as close as you can get without completely just winning every event or having the max lift for every event. So then moving down, second is Grace Van Hoy, who has been, pretty much regularly competing most of the major competitions and stuff like that. Just has been very active. And
on the armlifting scene for sure. Very consistent as well. Yeah.
And then Amina Alec would be third place.
So she competed in my event. She's a climber. She was the lightest of the group, and for her to get third, and she had the best hub lift. She's very, very strong pound for pound. She placed in King Kong last year, so she's really only been competing 6 or 7 months, but rising fast.
Mm-hmm. And then to round out the top 5, 4th place we have Anna Wilkins, and 5th place Erin Anderson. And
I saw.
Yeah, I'll keep going, Eric. You're good.
So the total scores, they're sort of like, there's no real chunks. If you look at the scores, it's sort of like this was clearly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll be interesting to see, as with all of these competitors, with Stage 2, how this can change. But at least with that type of gap, it sounds like that's the, there's not a super tight race right now. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these will change next time around.
Yeah, no, like I said, maybe, like 1 through 3 for that class in some regard is kind of close, like 5 points to 1, maybe like 9, but then again, like we've seen many times, you get a different event lineup for stage 2,
Absolutely.
and somebody has different stuff, and things can just sway back and forth. So if you're within 5 to 10 points right
Yeah.
now, 3 different lifts coming up, for stage 2 could sway stuff.
And if you're good at fat bar or thick bar, 2 of the 3 events next time, that'll be in your favor, right? Yeah.
So moving on from that, let's just not drop down, but let's go up to 70 kg, which has kind of been Tammy's weight class since she's been competing in arm lifting. I mean, she's been pretty dominant, and I don't want to say like completely unchallenged, but there's a big gap usually with her weight class and kind of numbers, her and the other competitors as of now. Like I said, maybe someone emerges or
especially under 70. Like she did 80 at the Arnolds, which is a bit more of a challenge, but at 70, she's going to be tough to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tammy had a clean sweep, all 300 points, and just above 50 points over second place.
Right.
Which was, hopefully I don't mess this name up, Suvi Mustonen.
I think she's from Finland.
Okay. That would have been my best guess on that. And actually, Suvi Mustonen, third place, Sarah Ott, fourth place, Christina Bangma, and fifth place, Ashley Sterling. And like I said, I don't know if this is an interesting thing to bring up about the class or not, but all of them in the top 5 are almost like the same age.
Right.
I mean, it's like 41, 40, 41, 40. Like literally, I mean, it just seems to be that for that weight class for this particular competition, everybody's kind of roughly there. Whereas the other class, like, oh, we have a 17-year-old doing it, and then the next person's, whatever. So yeah, pretty close in age, and that doesn't always mean close in experience and everything else. But just like I said, I'm just looking at stats, kind of rambling stuff off as we go. But
it looks like the race for second and third will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, they're only separated by about 7 points, 8 points maybe, and and even maybe a couple spots below that as well. I mean, only separated by 1 or 2 points below that. That could end up that top 5 could really kind of shake up. Like 2 through 5 could really change up. So I think that'll be something to look forward to for the 70 kg women's class once they get through stage 2. Yeah. Anything else to note at 70 kg, Eric?
No, I'm good with that.
Actually, I will bring up one thing before we move on, and that's Tammy's freestyle hub. Says 31.8 kilos, but I'm pretty sure she lifted, I want to say 70 pounds. I think it comes out to about 70 pounds. Am I off on that? Okay.
Yeah, that's
just double checking. But I feel like that's a pretty solid, that's a pretty solid lift. Like I barely, like, I mean, just by a bit outlifted that. So like, had I missed one attempt, Tammy would be tied with me or taking me out on that if we happened to be in the same class. So I think that's worth noting. Like I said, now obviously Saxon Bar and Country Crush, there's a bigger gap between like male and female competitors, typically. But for that, I mean, Tammy with that hub lift probably, I mean, in most of the men's class, she would have taken out a lot of people in the field. So big lift there from Tammy on the freestyle hub. Going to 80 kg. Let me see here. So yeah, winner of 80 kg would have been Helen Nguyen. And I believe we were talking before this. Is that another California lifter?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So
and clear win with an almost perfect score. So obviously very strong.
Yeah, 296 points. So almost a clean sweep there.
Very, very close between Haley and Sarah Toledo.
Second and third place. Yeah, Haley and Sarah.
Sarah trains with me. She's another climber. she had a really good hub lift. She had the best hub lift in this group. So not quite 70, but not too far off.
Yeah, no, right there.
And yeah, so that's an interesting. Once again, the race for second and third will be quite interesting there. Ashley Munsey always consistent, so she's right on the cusp of very close to third, and she is pretty good at the thick bar events from what I remember.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see her jump into the standings.
And then Michelle Collins in 5th place, which is I don't know if she lifts around your area, but that is a Canadian lifter as well.
She's in Alberta. She's in Alberta,
okay.
but she travels all over. She came to the North Americans, so I expect she'll be going to the Worlds probably as well.
I'm just trying to kind of see. Yeah, Sarah Saffel was just off by about 1.5 points or just about 2 points.
Yeah,
for being in the top 5, so that could be maybe something to look at. But then besides that lift there, or that not lift, but that score, there's about a 13-point drop off. Not saying that can't be overcome, but there does start to become a bigger gap after that 6th place. So
yeah,
potentially, unless somebody is really good with thick bar, that might not change too much going forward.
Right.
All right. Just moving along. So all right, yeah, next class, 90 kg. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out what the classes were going by there for a minute. But yeah,
which is I think a new break for a new class break for arm lifting. I think you probably add that, given that the numbers, I think before it would go from 80 to 100. I think
that's what I would say. I mean, I could be wrong as well, but that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of looking at it, and that's what I was looking at. I'm like, well, where's the next class? Because I was waiting for I think the old weight jumps, and that one threw me off a little bit. But Alicia Martin took first place in the 90 kg class there, and 281 points, but still a pretty good gap between everybody going down. Yeah, I mean, about 10 to 20 points per placing there. And it looks like she really only lost points on the hub.
Yeah.
She gave up basically those 19 points right there, all on the hub, and everything else she won the other 2 events. So could just been, just one of those weird events that maybe wasn't familiar with, or maybe just doesn't like that event as much. And then I said, Eric, if you have anything to add or anything that pops out to you, just yell it out. But if we go down the list, 1 through 5, Alicia Martin, 1st place, Lacey Hughes, 2nd place, Rachel Peterson, 3rd place, Jay Dickens, 4th, and Linda Arvey, 5th. And that would round out the top 5 for the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good there. Like I said, I always try to look up for a couple lifts or something that maybe stood out, but everything looks pretty wrapped up there. And then 100 kg, Heather McDowell with a 1st place win, or 1st place. Yeah, obviously it's a win if it's 1st place, right? But
I believe she does strong women contests, and she put up some pretty good numbers. 118 country crush. That's a really solid lift.
Yeah.
So yeah, she also has a commanding lead in this class.
Yeah, and it looks like most of these classes, some of them are a little bit deeper in depth, like the 80 kg class might be the biggest class as far as participation, with 19 people in it. And then, like I said, we bump up to 100 kg, and there's only 9 competitors for this particular stage.
Right.
So, but yeah, she definitely, like I said, had about a 30-some point lead there. And once again, looks like maybe just gave up some points on the hub. And I think that's something that is kind of worth noting real quick, is with the hub lift, typically, against the country crush or the Saxon bar, the total weight lifted on the hub is going to be much less. Therefore, if you mess up on that, the percentages are going to
Yeah.
be a lot crazier. So I mean, you can't afford to have a monster country crush, a killer Saxon bar, and then just
Yeah.
completely ignore something like the hub and give up 30 or 40 pounds on it, because it is almost going to be like weighted over the other two just based off of the total poundage and percentages.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're seeing with some of these scores where they don't have a clean sweep. They win the two-handed bigger power lifts, but where there's a little more technique. I don't say more technique. There's technique in every lift, but maybe a little bit more with the technical positioning of the hand, or kind of messing with the implement, and it being a single hand lift. It's not as much raw power
Right.
on the hub. So you see people kind of fall off and give up some points, but it's crucial to at least keep that up there if you want your other two big lifts to count, because we've seen a lot of people pull big on the first two I mean, men and women's side, they'll pull big on the first two, and then that hub is something that just kind of gets them, and you'll just see the points given up and the places drop.
Mm.
But yeah, so Heather McDowell took that class. Pretty big lifts there, like you mentioned on the Country Crush. Going down, I recognize some of the names, but then some names I'm not super familiar with. So if you Kathy Facey took third place, I'm familiar with her,
Right.
lifting out of Canada also.
Yeah.
Second place, Rachel McWilliams. I don't believe I'm familiar with that name. Are you, Eric?
I'm not either.
Okay. So, yeah, not sure what venue she lifted at or what her background is, but Rachel McWilliams took second place, Kathy Facey third, and then fourth place. Eric, you want to take that one? just off pronunciation.
Catherine Tonyati Vanulovic. Not sure where she got out of either.
That's better than I would have done. I would have messed that up bad. So yeah, and then fifth place, Shirley Ramsey. And hopefully I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I'm looking at the total points. There might be like a little issue with the spreadsheet, because if you look at fifth and sixth total.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one of them is in fifth, either Churla or Dana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. There's a couple. Yeah, there's some a couple points off there, or just different placings that.
Yeah.
It could be just a spreadsheet error or something like that, but yeah,
Yeah.
roughly, like I said, one of those two would be right there.
Yeah.
Then we climb up to the 100+ kg.
Now this is a competitive class, and
Yes. Yep.
strong class.
Yeah, very strong. I'll let you kind of go on this one if you want to kind of take this. I've been rambling pretty hard on you here.
So I'm happy to see that Gabby and Sarah both competed in the Super Series. This is great. We know that they're the top two on earth in grip. And it was interesting to see Sarah have the top lift with the Country Crush, Gabby had the top lift with the Saxon bar, and the hub. They were very close to one another. I mean, Sarah won, but it was close. So that's an exciting race to me. And it will be interesting to see. With they're both super strong at thick bar. So next stage, it might all come down to the vertical. I don't know. I mean, I know she's good at the vertical, but I don't know so much about Gabby for vertical lift. So who knows? It might come down to that particular lift or particular event to see who wins this class. But then, yeah, there's a steep drop down to third and fourth, but they're quite tight. So Maria, I'm not sure how to pronounce her now, Larry, and Amy Waddles, they're very close. Their score is very close. So that's that'll be interesting as well. And then in fifth place, Hannah Lewandowski, who's also another young competitor. I think she's out of New York, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Jen to be in sixth place, I know, she just missed the cutoff for the 100 kg. I think she's probably the lightest in this class.
Yeah.
But we're not used to seeing Jen in sixth place in any class. So that's just to say how strong the class is this year.
Yeah, it's a really stacked division, and I think you bring up a good point with saying that Sarah and Gabby are right up there, kind of battling for first and second. Yeah. With that event lineup. We know firsthand that Sarah's vertical lifts are pretty good from the even though it's a little bit different, but she had a good performance on the Little Bighorn at North Americans.
Yeah.
And when she was at the Olympia last with the V bar lift, she
Yeah.
pulled a very big V bar there. So if she can kind of duplicate something like that,
Yeah.
Assuming that the thick bar is roughly close, that looks pretty good for her there. Like I said, assuming that the V bar lift stays up there and the thick bar
Yeah.
is relatively close to each other.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and that class was separated by, less than 2 points with Sarah and Gabby.
Yeah.
And then there is a little bit of a steep drop off, but once it drops off, it's kind of close again, for third and fourth. So yeah, we might see, positions 3 through 5 maybe change up next,
Right.
but I think it's safe to say that 1 and 2 will probably end up being Sarah and Gabby, through
Yeah.
stage 2 as well. It's just a matter of what would Gabby's vertical lifts look like, and how close or how far apart can they get the thick bar lifts.
Yeah.
All right, and that mostly wraps up the women's. Right now, we're not going to get into the class groupings for cash prizes and all that extra stuff. We're strictly just going to go for this breakdown. We're just going to go women's, by weight, men's by weight, and kind of keep it at that, and not try to confuse, too much of the cash prizes with the overall and
Yep.
anything like that. So we'll head over to the men's classes by weight, and 70 kg with Steve Gasper taking first place, who he was recently on Grip Sport Latino, I think. Just did a little interview, kind of gave some of his background info not too long ago, and pretty sure he has a climbing background. So we have another climber kind of in the lighter weight classes that's winning competitions and kind of starting to get more consistent and competing more. And that was a clean sweep for Steve there.
Yeah.
With 300 points and a pretty big margin over everybody else below there. Yeah, and then let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, like I said, we can just run down basically 2 through 5. So 2nd through 5th place would be Ryan Baxter. I don't know if it's Nate Nerpel. I don't know if Nerpel would be the right.
I think it's Nurple.
Nurple. Okay, so Nate Nurple, Andrew Nguyen, and Braden Hendrickson for the top 5 there.
Yeah, it looks like Ryan's solidly in 2nd place, and the race will be for 3rd. So it'll be interesting to see if this changes in stage 2.
Then we get, I won't say necessarily like really stacked, but big participation. 29 people in the next class up. So, good participation coming from the 80 kg class. And like I said, if I mess up any names, I'm just doing the best I can reading this stuff off. But Samuel Poirot or Poirot, I
would guess Poiri. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have you start doing all the questionable names.
He's only 21. He came to the Arnolds.
Yep, I saw that.
And I think he got 3rd. Anyway, I think he did well at the Arnolds. So yeah, but he's in the lead, but it's not Will Reed is close behind. So that's going to be interesting to me to see how that shakes up in stage 2.
Yeah. And just from kind of knowing some of the lifts that Will does personally, he's a good vertical lifter as well.
Yeah.
So he usually has a pretty big V-bar lift. So that is something to probably look at for that. Yeah, like I said, that might be where he can make up some points. I don't know how both their thick bar lifts will match up, but yeah, Will does have a good vertical lift that he'll probably pull something big there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him take the class win at that point. Or for that event, you know what I mean? I don't know how the other 2 events will go. 3rd place, Scott Fisk, and from there, you train with Stefano, right?
Yeah,
in 4th place.
Yeah, yep. He's trains with me every week. Yeah,
and Interesting here. I mean, I don't know how these two guys have lined up in the past, but um, Mike Rogalski is always somebody that has been a long time grip sport arm lifting competitor.
Yeah.
And Mike Rogalski is very strong, very consistent. And like I said, I don't know if Stefano has beaten him in the past, during
Yeah.
some of these competitions, but I feel like Rogalski's usually above. So that might be maybe
Yeah,
a
you're
little
right.
bit of a feather in the cap for Stefano to kind of be above Rogalski in the rankings there, at least for stage one, because that's
Yeah. Yeah.
a tough lift.
Normally Michael would rank ahead, and he just lost too many points on the hub. That's where the difference had what occurred.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that'd be the top five there. And like I said,
Yeah.
and looking down the list, a lot of other names that I've seen or have lifted with, kind of dropping down. I don't want to get too in depth with it, but yeah, it's not like it just drops off after the top five and then, oh man, we've never heard of these people. There's a lot of people that have
Yeah. If you
competed
look,
yeah.
if you look, third place is at 255, sixth place is at 244. I mean, there's four guys who are within 10 points of each other, so
Yeah.
anything can happen in stage three for third place. It might be tough to unseat Samuel and Will, but for third, I think it could be anyone's.
And then 90 kg. I feel like this class is, I don't want to say kind of making a comeback, but for a while, in my opinion, 90 kg was a little bit thin as far as, competitors. You get ton of guys at 100, or, the lighter weight classes, 70 up to 90. It was kind of hit or miss on competitions. But now, just looking at this top five, you're starting to see not only just really big lifts from kind of the regulars, but just a lot of household names, and then even just out of the top five. I mean,
Yeah.
solid lifter. So this is, for Super Series, at least, we'll just say for Super Series sake, this is probably the strongest 90 kg class that they've had in the last few years for Super Series.
Yeah.
I would say. And if we just go down, is it Johans? Would that be Johans Lampinen, I believe?
Yeah,
Or?
Johannes. Yeah, he had a perfect
Johannes,
score,
okay.
right? So 300 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those Finns, I don't know if it's a Finnish thing, but they're good at the weird lifts. Like Freestyle Hub 43.5, Samuel had 42.25. They're good at these little different lifts.
Yeah. That is a good point, because we see that a lot, where a lot of the Finnish lifters are extremely well-rounded. And then you'll see a lot of, I don't want to limit it to just American lifters, but there is that kind of grouping of American lifters that are really big on like the strongman, like the Axel, the Saxon, the big power lifts. And then you get into the hubs, or like a Finnish ball or something, even though I know that's on the GSI side. And they give up points there. Whereas a lot of the Finnish lifters really just seem to still excel and put up top-notch numbers there. So Nick Mans took second place.
Yeah.
And I believe he was coming off of a win at the Arnold. Did he win 90 kg at the Arnold? I'm
not 100% sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I thought that he took the win at 90 kg this past Arnold. So he's right back up there again. And let me see. Did you want to kind of break down, I guess, going from 3 to 5 real quick?
Yeah, Steve Nutchins, he's from Alberta.
Yep.
He's sometimes he competes in GSI in the 83 class, but this time he's closer to 90. He's getting stronger and stronger. He had a good result. They're, very close to him and Nick, very close scores. Will Giuliani had a good outing, I would say, overall. And Ian Wheat, 5th place, followed not too far by Ryan Grabarczyk, another Canadian.
Strong class for Canada there.
So this is another race where I think one is going to be hard to beat Johannes, but second and third are a lot of people in contention.
Yeah, I mean, really everybody else below that. Man, you almost go from second. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like stretch it too much here, but 260. Yeah. I was gonna say about second to 8, anything can really happen there. So that's the majority of the top 10 can get kind of, shaken up there.
Yeah.
Then, I'm gonna let you definitely take the next class. Since that's your class and that you took, you're obviously sitting at first. So
I felt good heading into the Super Series stage run. I saw this list of events and I'm like, I'm going to have a pretty good score. So I knew I would do well in the Country Crush, and my Saxon, it's up there. It's not as good as my thick bar, but it's pretty good. And the Freestyle Hub, the difference between freestyle and claw grip or traditional grip for me is huge. Like there's over a 40-pound difference. So I think my hand is sort of similar in dimensions to Jason's, where we're both able to get a really good grasp on using the doorknob style, the freestyle hub. So we both lifted quite a bit of weight there. So yeah, it's a great start for me. I can't really complain. Yes. So Jason's in second, and then 3, 4, 5. Dustin McFarland from out west, I think in Oregon, I believe. Matt Marino, who we've met at the Olympia last year, and Cliff Keener, who's become. I'm happy to see Cliff has become so active.
He's been really active lately, and he's really strong.
I only learned because he came to the North Americans. I only learned that he's first competed in grip in like 2006 or something. Like he competed almost 20 years ago in grip. I didn't know that.
Wow.
But it's only in recent years that he's become a bit more, back to the sport.
That's definitely good to see. Like I said, I mean, he was in our class at the last Olympia. Yeah. And I mean, you won that. I took third, but he was right between us on that one. So yeah, I'm excited to see Cliff just being more active, because like I said, I know how strong the guy is. I didn't realize he was involved in the sport that long, but it's good to see him kind of picking up the pace, because it puts a lot of, it just adds another guy in the mix there that's going to put pressure on people and kind of hold everybody accountable. Because well, obviously you have a big lead there, but everybody, once again, in this class, almost 2 through 8 is, kind of the same thing. Everybody after that is in contention for something.
Yep.
And we might as well point out, I didn't look at the overall yet for everything, Eric, but I mean, you lifted 191 for the Country Crush. How did that stack up against everybody else? Do you know?
I think it was like maybe the 5th highest, something like that.
Okay.
So it was good. Yeah.
And then your Freestyle Hub, probably pretty similar.
I think it was the 3rd highest, the Freestyle Hub.
Yeah. So you pretty much, I mean, even though you're at the 100 kg class, I mean, you have 110s, 125s, and then 125 plus. I mean, you have 3 heavier classes above you.
Yeah.
And pretty much, I mean, two of your 3 lifts were in the top 5 overall. So
I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is I just want to make mention of that, because I don't want to put pressure on you to like have to talk about yourself. You know what I mean? I don't want to make you have to say it, but no, very, very impressive lifting, and congrats on doing so well. And I know that the next stage has very good events for you as well. So if you guys are in the 100 kg class, you might just have to buckle down and fight for second place, because Eric's got a big lead, and with the next events coming up, I don't even know that it would. I don't even think it would be even possible to close that gap. Anything else to mention in your class there?
No, I'm good to keep going.
All right. Bouncing up to 110. So we're talking 242 pounds and under. And from Finland, Harri Talonen. And I want to say that every year Hari's done the 110s. I could be wrong, but I feel like he's won that weight class at least. I mean, he's at the top right now. And then I know at least a couple of years ago he won the 110. So it seems like when he decides to compete, or if he's in that weight, I mean, he's been doing this stuff forever, super strong. And once again, very well rounded, from thick bar, pinch, even if you're talking the oddball lifts, he's not an easy guy to gain points on.
No, very well balanced. Yeah.
And 294, so almost 295 points for him. So not quite the clean sweep, but pretty convincing lead. And then it gets interesting from 2 probably down to
At least 5.
Which I was 5th. So yeah, let's just run down the top 5. So we had Harry Talonen with a pretty convincing lead. Andy Muncie, who it's nice to see him. I know he's done some, I think he's done some other competitions and stuff and gotten back, but he was bouncing back from an injury not too long ago. So nice to see that Andy's recovered and pulling big lifts. And Jake Fuller in 3rd. Jake Fuller's been around arm lifting and competing around, just different grip stuff for a minute. I think this is just a side note that no one else would know, but I want to say my second competition I ever did, Jake was at, and it was a Super Series event, maybe 2021, but he was super strong then. I mean, just he was already pulling really, really big numbers. And but yeah, that always just stuck out in my head because like I said, he took 3rd here, but when I was like the new guy that didn't know what was going on and really wasn't pulling any numbers, I hadn't really, I guess, kind of hit my stride with the grip stuff yet. I was just figuring this out. So a couple months in, I'm at the Super Series, and I remember Jake lifting really big stuff. So no surprise that he's in 3rd there. 4th, Justin Nurple, and then myself in 5th place. So yeah, between Andy all the way down to me. So Andy Muncie, Jake Fuller, Justin Nurple, and myself. Yeah, we'll see what happens with stage 2, but
it's a very competitive group as well in this class.
I just don't think that it's possible that lineup could stay in that exact order, but I wouldn't count on it. I would say something's going to change. Whether 2 goes to 3, 4 goes to 2, whatever the case is, I think something's going to get changed up there. So, but yeah, I'm good on the 110s there. Like I said, I was pretty happy with my lifts. My freestyle hub was down. I lifted like 10 pounds more 2 years ago. Okay. I haven't been training it, and the other training I've done has kind of made the freestyle grip, I don't know, just not feel as comfortable. And I kind of gave up some points on the freestyle hub. If I could have bumped that freestyle hub up, I'd probably be sitting a little bit better than 5th. But yeah, that's what I had that day, was like 75 pounds, and I missed 80. So other than that, I was happy with the country crush lift I did. And for not really training Saxon bar, it wasn't too far off of some of my best lifts. So I was cool with that too. So up to 125. And this is good to see too, because John has been competing for a long time, and I feel like he's always been right up there at the top for these competitions. But I don't know that I've seen him, and I could be wrong. But I don't know that he's always been number 1. I feel like he's always been like 2, 3, 4, like right there, because there's always been somebody like Ode or whoever above. And it's good to see John up there, because he's always training. He's always putting up the videos, and you can see he's putting in the work, and he's been doing this a really long time as well. And just strong and well-rounded. So yeah, John Matchnick, 1st place in the 125 class. And yeah, like I said, probably be tough to, he doesn't have a giant lead over 2nd, but he's pretty well-rounded. It's going to be tough to get John in the next lineup as well, I would say. Do you want to kind of, I don't know, like I said, just kind of break down some of the other placing going down? Yeah.
John's hub is awesome. He had the 2nd highest lift of all, 49 kg. That's some serious weight. Yeah. And John's an example of a guy, his one-hand pinch is so phenomenal that I feel like some people lift, you would think somebody lifts twice as much with 2 hands as they lift with 1 hand. Some people lift more than twice as much when it's 2-handed, and some people lift less than twice as much when you're doing 1 hand. This guy is a guy who's had the world record on the pinch block. So as good as 111 is, which is very, very good, I feel like he could do even more, given what he can do one-handed.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but yeah, he did well across the board. Jalen also solid across, all three lifts. He had the top sacks, and not too surprising. He's really good at this whip for a two-hand pinch.
Yeah.
Actually, one-hand pinch as well. Yeah, those two guys, John and Jalen, are probably like maybe the top two guys of the group for the one-hand pinch block. They're really, really strong. Trey from Montreal in there for third. Third, fourth, very, very close race. Ode. So Ode is a guy, he could potentially, with two of those three events in stage two are really good for him.
Yep.
But I don't know anything about his vertical lifts. So, I would think he could jump in the standings, but I don't know how much the vertical lift may hold him back. I don't think I recall seeing him do vertical lifts, so it'll be interesting to see. And Mike Saffel, not too far behind in fifth place. So that's another top five. Those five guys they're all strong.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's everybody except for Mike. No, I'm just kidding. I just got to throw that out there to mess with Mike because he's Team Ohio. So yeah, I'm just messing with him. No, yeah, 1 through 5, and that's not to say anything. 6 and below aren't strong, but those top 5 guys the last couple of years or longer have been really household names and are really kind of making their mark. And yeah, it's good that you point out that the next stage has 2 thick bar lifts because Ode is really kind of a thick bar specialist.
Well, 195 on the Country Crush, right? So he's that's a serious weight.
And everybody knows that Ode is really good at thick bar, but once again, we've seen this before. Gave up so many points on the hub that if that hub's not in the way, and or let's just say next stage when it's 2 thick bar lifts, as long as he pulls a decent vertical lift, Ode might be back up towards 1 or 2, depending on what the other guys do with the thick bar lifts. Right. It'll just be interesting to see because that is kind of his specialty, especially just plain deadlifting with I think the fat grips, but axle deadlifting, thick bar deadlifting, he's going to lift some weight. So yeah, very competitive class with a lot of the household names there. And then we get into our super heavies. Actually, Eric, I'm gonna bring up one thing that I just saw here because it's like kind of highlighted.
Yep.
That I think it's worth mentioning. And if you have any intel, feel free to correct me or give any background. But Brad Provic, it appears Brad Provic, who I know is very strong, does very well in a lot of lifts, got 0 points for the hub. Did he zero the lift? Did he just jump in too high and miss there?
I don't know the details. That's what it looks like.
Because he got 0 points in an event. So essentially it's his 2 lifts and it's like he didn't even do a third lift. I don't know if that was just maybe opening too high and then just something was wrong with the texture and missed it. But Brad Provic would be somebody I would anticipate being much, much closer to that, top 5 or on the edge of those other lifts. He's a top-notch lifter. So seeing him all the way down in 24th, clearly that's not representative of how strong he actually is. Or
but even his numbers on the other 2 lifts were a little down. I don't know if he was maybe too aggressive on the jumps. I'm not sure.
Could be, and you never know. Could be an injury or something. I mean, like I said, we don't know
exactly.
But I just thought it was worth mentioning because as you go down the list, oftentimes sometimes you won't recognize names. Yeah. But Brad is somebody that is a top-notch lifter. So it surprised me to see a 0 on any event, and I just whether that's just missing a lift that you weren't anticipating or an injury or something there, but. Yeah, normally Brad would be much higher than that. I just didn't know if you had anything. Like I said, I get it. Canada's giant, and you guys are on opposite ends. But it's like, oh, he's in Canada. Like, do you know what happened? Like, just because you're in the same country, it's like asking me, like, well, Zach, what happened in California? It's like, dude, I don't know. So but I wasn't sure if you had any intel there.
I don't.
To the super heavies, and we have some interesting stuff to talk about here. Um, I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say since the Super Series has started and Carl's done them, I don't know that Carl has lost a stage. I have to go back and really check that. But Carl is sitting in second place right now behind Alexei Tukalov. And I'm pretty sure they lifted at the same venue as well. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that they both lifted. I want to say at the training hall, if my memory serves me right, from seeing some of the videos.
Yeah.
That's interesting because they're the top one and two guys for that class, and they competed together at the same venue. So I'm sure they were probably kind of strategically maybe going back and forth on some jumps and kind of, playing the game a little bit there.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think in speaking to Ricardo, I think he said Carl took a really aggressive jump on the Country Crush and just backfired.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, killed it on the Saxon bar.
I think that's the new world record, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is. Yep. And I don't want to try to do the math, but yeah, I think it was like 314 or 315 pounds, maybe.
Yeah. Wow.
Somebody around there. And him and Alexei both pulled pretty big freestyle hubs, but then normally you would think that Carl pulling 42 kilos on the freestyle hub, you're like, okay, yeah, man, you're sitting pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But with this scoring, Jason Dingy and Arto Gironin kind of get in there and kind of mess that up a little bit points wise.
Yeah.
If you take Jason and Arto out of that mix, Carl's probably tied for second or right up there. But, Jason and Arto jump up in there and kind of hurt Carl's points just a little bit there for that lift. But yeah, first place, Alexei Tukalov. Second place, Carl Meyersko. Third place, the General, Jason Dingy. Fourth place, Arto Gironin. And fifth place, Clay Edgen, who longtime competitor, but I don't think we've seen him actively compete in a while. So cool to see him back.
Yeah. Yeah. And Derek just a couple of points behind. So
yeah,
I'd be surprised if someone could defeat Alexei or Carl. Maybe Jason has a chance at second, but those two guys seem to be the favorites in this class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me see, what was I good? Yeah. And Jason's another one that just, for the freestyle hub, that's just something that he just throws up big numbers on.
Yeah.
Then that really helped there, but like really all of his lifts, he pulled over 200, 200 over, almost 205 kilos on the Country Crush. I know he lifted 275 pounds on the Saxon bar, which was almost even with Alexei. Obviously, Carl, really set the bar high, but Jason and Alexei on Saxon were, within a kilo of each other.
Yep.
So pretty close lift there for those guys. Yeah. And like I said, so everybody up there in the top five, pretty close, but like the 1 and 2 with Alexei and Carl, that's kind of maybe a little unlikely to change, but yeah, you don't know because it's 288, 281, and 275 for the point spread there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jason could definitely hop in there with some of those lifts. Like I said, it might come down to that vertical lift, very similar to we have the Country Crush and the Saxon, and kind of that X factor for this stage was the freestyle hub.
Mm-hmm.
Thick bar is usually pretty consistent, or at least, it's contested enough. We kind of know.
Yeah.
When it comes down to lifting on the Raptor handle and the Fat Grips deadlift, those are kind of going to be like your Country Crush and Saxon. It's kind of known. Mm-hmm. And then it might, the vertical lift might be the X factor this next time around for stage 2. As far as shaking things up or not necessarily knowing what's going to happen that day. But yeah, that would wrap up everything from the women's 60 kg all the way up to the men's super heavyweights. and that's just breaking everything down by class. Eric, before we jump off, do you have anything that you would like to add about stage one?
No, I just think these multi-venue contests are always interesting. It's never perfectly comparable. It's always, we're not all lifting under the exact same conditions, but nevertheless, it is always cool to compete alongside 300 people, right? So, and it is exciting for the races that are really close, and for certain positions, it will be interesting to see what happens in stage two. So we'll have to wait another couple of months before we know what happens, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Yeah. And like I said, wish you the best of luck in the 100 kg class. Like I said, I think you have it wrapped up, but you don't want to get too ahead of yourself, or you can't do it, because we've seen too much, just way too many crazy things happen in the sport.
Yeah.
Very similar. And like I said, I'm not saying this is something that will happen, but I know the first year I did the Super Series, Adam Glass was like posting all this stuff about, the freestyle hub was like at 100 pounds, because I mean, he's a monster at vertical lifting and stuff, but it's like freestyle hub, blah, blah. But then he had that finger injury. Right. And when his finger injury happened, he had to do everything, like the pinch block and the freestyle hub. Like, I don't know if it was offhand, but he had to go single hand for the rest of the event. And that totally changed everything. So although these standings, some of these 1 and 2 place standings really seem like they're locked in, freak things happen. Sometimes people don't compete. Sometimes other people come in and move the scores around. So you can't take anything for granted, but like I said, wishing you the best for the 100 kg class and your stage 2. And
good luck to you as well in the 110.
Yeah, I don't know if I can catch up and get up there to 1 or 2, but I'm gonna try to gain some ground to see what happens. Cool. But thanks again for doing the recap, and everybody, hopefully we'll see you guys lifting in stage 2.